Podcast. The Keep Leading Podcast is dedicated to leadership development and insights. I'm your host, Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of executive coaching, masterful facilitation, and professional speaking. Today, I'm broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Be sure to hit the share button so that your colleagues can get access to this episode real time or see the recording after we conclude. This session will be available on those three platforms indefinitely and wherever you download podcasts on your favorite podcast portal, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and others. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I, in my work as an executive coach, ended up talking about a lot, both with emerging leaders who I work with and experienced leaders. And that is the subject of their career. Now, what if the biggest threat to your career wasn't your company, wasn't your manager, supervisor, or someone else, or even the economy? What if the biggest threat to your career was the person you look at in the mirror every day? You yourself. How can you identify where you may be a threat and sabotaging your own career and not helping yourself? To answer that question and provide guidance, I've invited an expert on this subject to be my guest today. My guest today is Robert Corbett, who we call Bob. Bob Corbett has himself spent years in corporate America and some of the best corporations, working with leaders at the highest levels. He's also an executive coach and an adjunct faculty member at my alma mater, Northwestern University. And he's the author of the new book, Create, or let me try that again, Craft and Own Your Career, the Zero-Fluff Guide to Ignite Your Purpose and Map Your Path. So, Bob, welcome to the Keep Leading Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eddie. Thank you so much for having me a guest. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Now,
and this topic, by the way, is one that really does touch my heart.
Tell us about your career and why this topic touches your heart, Bob.
Well, as you said, I mean, my background is a mix of probably about 30 years in corporate organizations, and probably another almost 30 years as an entrepreneur and an executive coach and leadership consultant. And I think, one day, it's really interesting because one day I woke up and, I had some things that I wanted to accomplish. And I just started thinking about, so how would you assess your career, right? Where are you where you wanted to be? How would you assess the journey that you've taken? What are the key things that you've learned? What would you share with your daughter, who's just starting out? On her career. What are the key things that you learned? What would you do differently based upon what you know now? If you were just starting out, what would you tell your younger self as you venture down the path of a career? And so that was the thing that got me. I kind of said, dude, you learned something along the way. So I didn't write the book to be the definitive know-all person about careers, but I said, well, maybe if I wrote a book that kind of summarized some things that I've learned, some things I do differently, some suggestions, some things to consider, and if people found that of value, I would feel great about that because that would be my opportunity to give back to people and share some of the things that that I've learned along the way. Now, I've had a very successful career, I might add, in boardrooms, working with board members and all the rest of it, um, and I've learned some things from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is, it's your career. If you want a career that you want to look back upon as rewarding and fulfilling, you have to take ownership of it. You can't hope by joining an organization. I'm not knocking organizations, but you can't hope that they've wrapped their arms around you and they've read your mind and they know what it is that you want and what will be best for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do your own homework. You have to know yourself. You have to know, what do you bring to the party? So in the book, there are two tools that I talk about. One is called a personal balance sheet. That personal balance sheet just asks you, okay, so what do you consider to be your strengths? What are the key roles that you've had to date where you've been successful? Why were you successful? What are the key needs based upon that? What are your key needs going forward that would make you even more successful in your next role? Over the next 1 to 3 years, what do you want to be doing differently over these next 1 to 3 years that's aligned with your personal vision of where you want to be?
Okay, so what you're saying, Bob, is people often leave it to organizations to direct their careers.
Yes.
And you are advocating that people should not do that. And one
Right.
way of making sure they're advocating for themselves is to find out what they're worth. So in the
Yes.
book, you provide people a personal balance sheet, which sounds a lot like accounting.
Yes. And I'm not an accountant.
But you're in essence making the call for each of us to take an accounting of our skill sets
Yes.
through using the tool that you provided in the book. And now once we know what we're worth,
Yes.
we can now begin to construct the career, or the word you used was craft, and
Yes.
own the career
Yeah.
that we want.
Yeah. And Eddie, the only thing I would add to that, I refer to it as a North Star.
Mhm.
And that would be to have a real clear sense of what your personal purpose is. And your personal purpose is kind of like, how do I want to be remembered? What do I want my legacy to be? How do I want people to experience me in every encounter that I have with them? When I look back, when I'm along the way in my career and I look back on my career, what do I want to have accomplished? What do I want to see? And it's so important to have a sense of who you are, why you're here on the planet, the essence of who you are, and making sure that what you're doing career-wise is consistent with that essence of you. It is
Good.
so hard to be somebody that you're not. It's easier to
Mhm.
be someone that you are and we're meant to be. But there's work that goes with that.
Now, that's a good way of looking at it. But now, if someone's listening to our conversation right now, they're thinking, hey, I just got into the workforce. I just graduated from college. I'm not really thinking about my legacy yet, right? So
Yeah.
those who are listening, they're on the other side of their career, they're thinking about that, the impact they're having.
Yeah.
What advice would you give on both sides of that spectrum? Both to the person who's just starting out, not thinking about legacy quite yet, and
Yeah.
on the other side?
I think you make a good point. I think that legacy is something that we tend to think is you have to be at it a while, whatever that is, and then you're looking back because you've already been doing some work and that kind of stuff. I think legacy is something that you should think about at the beginning. How do I want to be remembered?
Yes.
And that should be part of what guides your behavior on a day-to-day basis.
So don't wait
Do I
until
wanna
we're
be-
10 years, 15 years in. You're saying start
Yeah.
thinking about that immediately.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to
Excellent.
be known as the whiner? Do you want to be known as the complainer? Do you want to be, how do you want to be known?
Mhm.
Okay. And so what fits that? So what are the kinds of behaviors I need to engage in so that whatever that legacy is, even starting out, that
Mhm.
from the very beginning, I'm living that and people see that in me.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a nice framing, and that you don't have to wait until later. Start to think about it early, because now you're building as you go versus having to look back and think, oh, wow,
Yeah,
this
I
hasn't
got to
gone quite
fix
the way
some
I
stuff.
thought.
Yeah.
Let me start to get this rearranged.
You're right.
Fantastic. Now, you offer a wonderful framework in the book called Own It. Talk to us
Yes.
about the Own It process and how that can help an individual as you're doing this.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that the owning process is 5 steps. Step 1 is own your career, own my career, which is basically saying, stop thinking about it and talking about it, but start figuring out
Mhm.
what does that look like for me at the just beginning. That's step number 1. And a key element of that is it's taking the action. I should be doing this, and I'd rather be doing that, and that kind of stuff. Well, if you'd rather be doing stuff than what you're doing, what do you think you need to do to let somebody know that you have an interest in doing some other things?
Mhm.
How are they going to know unless they read your mind? I mean, you're going to have to tell them. And you're going to have to tell them, this is what I'm interested in, and you have to maybe volunteer or start doing work in that space so people can actually see you doing that work that you'd like to be doing more of. But part of owning your career is also letting go of beliefs, attitudes that maybe you've accepted along the way. Like for me, one of the ones that I just believed was asking for help is a sign of weakness. Okay, so I just figured that I'm going to leave it to the organization to help me figure out who I am and what I'm going to be.
So you're saying that asking for help is not a weakness?
Asking for help is smart. We live in a global economy. Even though it's kind of flopping all over the place these days, but we live in a global economy. There's no way one person can know everything about everything. It's too complicated.
Asking for help is smart. Plain and simple.
Asking for help is smart.
I love it.
One of the things that because I believe that my dad and my grandfathers and my uncles all told me, as a person of color, asking for help is a sign of weakness. That's how you'll be seen. So I went to work figuring that was true, and then I'd see all my colleagues gathering together at lunchtime at the lunch table, sharing information and all that kind of stuff. And I said, now, why are you sitting over here trying to figure out all this stuff on your own? You should be over there at the table understanding what they know, and that kind of stuff. So that was the belief that I had that just caused me to think that the organization, it was their responsibility to figure out what training programs I ought to be on and that kind of stuff. And what jobs I ought to apply for and that kind of stuff. So I was locked into the job hierarchy of the organization that I worked in. The next step was be who I am more, not less. Meaning that usually when you cross the threshold into the office, I used to figure there was a part of me I had to leave outside because I had to be this person that was viewed as accepted within the firm, and that meant that you had to carry yourself in a certain way, you had to dress in a certain way, you had to respond to questions in a certain way, and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't being myself though. So so the struggle for me is I'm Bob Corbett. I'm a welcoming, engaging person and that kind of stuff. I'm not this sit in the corner, distant person from everybody else, but I felt that's what I needed to do so I wouldn't disappoint anyone or whatever. I mean, it's just, I wanted to fit in. Fitting in was everything. And that's what I felt I needed to do. And because I was focusing on fitting in, I wasn't being me.
So when you decided to be more of who you are and not less, being you, being your authentic self, being the Bob Corbett you really are,
yes.
What happened?
Actually, people were they were curious.
Mhm.
We haven't seen this guy before. Okay, so tell me more about and so we got into discussions of what do we do on the weekends. We got, it was really interesting because for me, I had moved born and raised in Illinois. I'd moved to California then. And so I was working with people that had grown up in California. And so they didn't really know me.
Mhm.
And so by me being willing to share more of who I was, I started developing relationships that were really meaningful and were good
Mhm.
for me. And people kind of began to take me in because they knew who I really was. So it was kind of a
So
risk
you
for me, but
found that this new Bob that was showing up
uh,
was someone who people welcomed, liked, and enjoyed, and it sounds like that ended up becoming a pivot point for your career.
it really was.
Good. So be more of
And
who you are and not less.
yes, don't hide it. Yeah. The third step is decide now is the time. So, in other words, it's never too late to spend the time really focusing on who you want to become on this career journey and what kinds of things you believe would be fulfilling and rewarding in your career. Um, so, why wait?
Mhm.
Do it now. But the important thing is you got to do something, right?
Well, what
Um,
about and when you think about doing something, don't wait. Right now is one of those critical times, one of the most critical times, perhaps, in the American work or the global workforce, quite frankly,
yeah,
in
yeah,
um, in a generation. Well, with the technological advances, with AI just absolutely disintermediating everything, right?
yeah, yeah,
And consolidation of where the true power lies across so many industries, it's difficult, even for those with degrees from top schools, to find
yeah,
employment. So,
yeah.
how can this help them, this thought process, and their need to decide now, as you're explaining?
I think that it's important to help decision makers know who you are, what you bring, what your interests are looking down the road. Um, and I mean, it's important for them to get to know you. And when you let them in and give them the opportunity to get to know you, then they begin to see what else you can bring beyond what they thought. They really begin to, just like when I began to show them more of who I was,
Hmm.
they go, "Oh, this guy's deeper than I thought.
Hmm.
Uh, he's got more. We have some interests in common, and I wouldn't have thought that. Based upon the way in which he kind of held himself together close to the vest before.
So, being
Um,
proactive again, making that
yes,
decision to make sure you're getting your true self out in front of others and letting them
yes,
see your entire portfolio of skills and not
yes,
just what they may have even hired you for, that you bring more that they can
yes,
tap into to
yes,
leverage you in this time period.
and especially what you just said. They begin to see, wow, we kind of thought he was this, and he showed that he has this capability to be broader. There's
Mhm.
more stuff that we could areas or places that we are ways in which we could use him if he's interested. Oh, he's interested. Why not? The other thing is the step four is identify my trusted advocates and seek their counsel.
Mhm.
Um, to get the best out of your network, if you will, and your trusted advocates in your network, they need to know who you are because I mean, because you're going to be going to them and sharing your aspirations, your plan to accomplish the things that you aspire to become.
Mhm.
You're going to be getting their input. Along the way, you're going to be developing areas of common interest.
Mhm.
You're going to identify what are the things that are important to them. Hopefully, you'll have the opportunity to help them accomplish things that are important to them because they're helping you accomplish something that's important to you.
Absolutely.
They're providing input to you, and you can pivot and then say, "Hey, I don't want you to think that this is all transactional. Um, if I can reciprocate and help you, in areas that are important to you, please let me know that.
Mhm.
And I'm here to sign up for whatever ways make sense that I can return the favor. Um,
Beautiful. Now, I'll tell you
so
something about this phrase.
yeah.
I think about the first time I heard the phrase trusted advisor.
Hmm.
And that was when I was doing some work for our mutual friend, Bob Dean, who introduced me
Yeah.
to Andrew Sobel, who I
Yeah.
immediately became a big fan of. And his concept around that, and of course, since that time period, we hear that phrase a lot. But he really brought a lot of life to that phrase. I have to
Mhm.
tell you, I don't think I've heard trusted advocates before reading your book. I love that framing. I love that
Yeah.
concept of a trusted
Yeah.
advocate, who I would
Yeah.
normally have called a mentor or a
Yeah.
sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and they can be all of that, and the reason that I chose advocates was because it's reciprocal.
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't want it to just be one way. Well, you're an advisor. No, you're an advocate. I mean, you might give me some advice, but you might know some people. You might know some people
Hmm.
that can be helpful to me as I think about da 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 da. And
Hmm.
you might be willing, as a trusted advocate, to make an introduction for me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
I love it.
so yeah, so I because I was all set to use advisor. I was, I really was. And I said, well, but they're going to be more than just advising me.
Beautiful. That two-way
Hmm.
uh, role that you're asking them to be both your advocate and
Hmm.
that person advising you, giving you advice. So, yeah,
Yes.
combining mentors and sponsor into one word. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this fourth step, I also suggest that I mean, you can never have too many trusted uh, advocates, and
Hmm.
so the more the better.
Hmm.
And make sure you have the right mix. You have people that are
Yes.
outside your organization.
Yes.
You have critical thinkers that are part of that, knowledge leaders that are part of that. I mean, just not don't silo yourself within the organization where you happen to be. Uh, have the have the broadest network possible. So if somebody sneezes, because somebody in your network is hey, Bob, Bill just sneezed, so you might want to give him a call or whatever. So um, that's the concept.
Yes.
And the more trusted advocates that you have, um, the less transactional you are, and the less uncomfortable you need to feel about. Well, I got to call Bill because he knows Sam. I mean,
Mhm.
but you just talk to your trust your advocates, uh, and they're well connected already. They can tell you who to reach out to, and they can make those introductions if needed, and that kind of stuff. But they will tell you the truth.
Yes.
They will tell
Now,
you the truth.
now, Bob, we're talking about how people are crafting and owning their career while
Yes,
they're in an organization. But one of
yes,
the things that's really unique about you is, in addition to even the work that you've done in teaching future leaders at Northwestern University, you have worked at one of the top uh, big four consulting accounting firms
yes,
and worked with the partners of those firms
yes,
while they were on staff, but then also toward the end of your last work engagements there, you were helping those who were transitioning into their retirement post
yes,
life at the firm. What
yes.
insights did you gain that you could share with those who may be listening who are thinking about what's my life going to be like after I've left a great corporate career?
Okay. Um, I think probably because this is the biggest thing that most of them had to let go of. When you've been working 20, 30 years someplace, and somebody was always looking for you, and there was always another email to write, or there was always a phone call, or whatever. um, the notion of retiring and not having anybody looking for you and no emails to respond to makes you feel, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? The question is, what do you want to do? This is your chapter. View it as a canvas, and you got a whole bunch of paintbrushes and all the rainbow of colors. What picture do you want to paint? What do you want this next chapter of your life to look like? What do you want it to feel like? So a lot of it was talking to them in terms of, what have you always wanted to do that you never really seem to have time to do, but you wish you did?
So in other words, you're helping them appreciate that they now get a chance to do what they want to do rather
Yeah,
than what they've had to do.
right, right. You don't have
Fantastic.
anybody telling you where to be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You you will be wherever the heck you want to be.
Uh-huh.
Where is that? So now you have, now you have the opportunity to think about, what do I want,
Mhm.
without it being winning or losing. Because the other thing is, when you in major organizations, it's all about, well, I lost the sale, I won the sale, I didn't, we got this, we didn't get that, or whatever the heck it is. And
Mhm.
this is an opportunity for you not to think about that. What do
Well, it
I
sounds
want?
like that question is a powerful question that really is the foundation for our career. We should all
Yeah.
be asking ourselves, what do I want?
Yes, that's why. That's why, when you asked me earlier on, yeah, but yeah, if somebody's new to their career, are they really
Mhm.
really ready to do that? Well, ask the question. Start thinking about it. Why not?
And at different
Who?
stages of your career, right?
Yes, it's
You and I
not a
both
one
know a
time.
lot of recovering CPAs, recovering attorneys, right? Who are now doing something completely different because they've asked themselves that
Totally,
very question and they've
totally.
decided that it's not too late, as you said, to decide now to
Yeah,
recraft their
yeah,
career.
yes,
So excellent,
yeah,
excellent. Bob, I could talk to
yes.
you forever. What a tremendous book that you've written. If
Oh,
there's
thank you.
just one insight that you want people to take away from our conversation, what would that
Mhm.
be?
Um, your career is yours to own. It doesn't matter who you work for, if you work for someone else. Your career, it's your vision. It's your vision of your career destination. It's your vision of the career path that you want to take to get there. And if the organization doesn't offer those opportunities for you, that they're not clear, doesn't necessarily mean that you want to leave there. Maybe you will. I mean, but doesn't mean that that's a necessity. Well, if they don't have it, I can't stay. No, it might mean having more conversations with decision makers and making sure they know what your interests are. And it's an opportunity for you to share what you know about the business, because you might even say, hey, this is the area I'd like to really focus on. And I know this is an area that's gone unserved,
Mm-hmm.
for example. It's an area that we'd like to have more customers in, or it's an area that um, um, is undeveloped, but it's an opportunity. And I have a strong interest in that. So sometimes you can even create opportunities for yourself that don't already exist by showing the interest, by having conversation with the right trusted advisor or trusted advocates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but please understand and please believe, organizations cannot read our minds. The only way they know what we're interested in or what we'd like is if we tell them. And
Yes.
you need to identify the right people to tell, but you need to be more proactive in uh, identifying and sharing what it is that's most important to you and how you can even contribute more than you already are. Here are the things that I'm already doing, but look at this. If you let me do this plus begin to spend a little bit more time in this area, look at the benefits that I can generate for the organization by doing that. And I'm okay
Fantastic.
with that. I love that. They don't know that you're interested in doing that unless you tell them.
Indeed. Bob, thank you so
And
much.
one last thing. And th- people in organizations are so focused on their assigned responsibilities that they're really not as aware of what might be possible.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't already exist and it hasn't already been assigned a team of people to deal with it, if you see a need that is going unmet, and you have a concept of how you can work whatever that need might be and who might help you with that, you can create. an opportunity with an organization that wasn't already there.
Indeed. Thank you, Bob. So Bob Corbett, again, executive coach, adjunct professor at Northwestern University, author of Craft and Own Your Career. Thank you again for having been a guest on the Keep Leading podcast. I encourage everyone to connect with Bob on LinkedIn, visit him and learn more about his work at fullyaligned.com. The book's available on Amazon or wherever you get your books. Thanks again, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Have a great, great day. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. That concludes this episode, everyone. I'm Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator, reminding you that leadership is not about our title or our position. Leadership is action. Leadership is an activity. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment that we put on and take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. So whatever you're doing, always keep leading.